You/Ryan the realist. It's kind of fateful that I ended my long-standing dream by buying a Mustang. It was unrealistic, beautiful, heavy, black, like a real animal. But then the waste began. First, I need insurance. For the car at such a tight price, it turned out to be simply dismal, even with a good credit rating. Then I realized that gasoline was simply eating up my budget. And when the time came to change the oil and perform basic maintenance, oh God, it turned out. What is the leather part? These cars are worth 3 times more expensive than my old Toyota. After a few months, I had the opportunity to indulge in other things. Going to the gym, going on weekend trips. My Mustang has become a tractor, not a death. At the end, I just sold it and turned to a larger budget car. I will never buy anything like this again without paying all the additional expenses. Speedy Gonzalez. I had a similar situation, only I was planning to take a new BMW 5 Series for payment. I thought that I could pull it, even though the salary was disgusting and the bonuses were cheap. Well, knowing that one wheel for Y is BMW more expensive than repairing my old car. The next month I realized that I couldn't afford summer tires, not even considering all the taxes and insurance. Before that, the car required good service from the dealer. It was so expensive that I started skip-scheduled maintenance. As a result, the engine went well, and less than $1,000 were saved. I'm currently driving an old Honda Civic, and I don't notice that I've had a lot of cool show-offs. Eugen loves cars. I was in awe of the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. The price is right, Gellig. And when I decided to save up enough for the first deposit, I didn't think twice. A few years after the purchase, I had the opportunity to survive the worst period in my life. Insurance, fire, maintenance, all this took up most of my salary. And if I needed something new after breaking a stone on the highway, they called me this. The price that I literally panicked. I had a chance to take out a loan. As a result, the car depleted my finances, and I realized that I couldn't afford to live on a car. 2 years have already passed, and I'm still turning the Borgs around. It's better to deprive Maria sometimes of death. Yushu and realistic Tata Tony. I also had an idea to buy a Tesla Model S, because it seemed that an electric car would be cheaper to maintain. And for the first few months, it was really cool. No expenses for gasoline, you charge the car at home, maybe a fairy tale. Albeit in the winter, my eyes opened up. The charging station in the house was breaking down, and replacing the battery was even more expensive. Plus, the repair work on the Tesla service turned out to be so expensive that I started to think about how much of a savings it really is. And one more, I underestimated the value of replacing tires and spare parts. As a result, this car became my financial pasture. Now I think it would be better if I knew about the budget and just talked about Tesla. Exotic dreamer. Oh, I just succumbed to the taste and bought my own Dodge Challenger. About how I died from childhood. And no one is ahead of me because this car doesn't like everyday driving. It literally drinks gasoline, otherwise it's a single function. We add up to how much money will be spent on insurance. The insurance company calculated that it was less than 18, not 32, and set such a rate, otherwise I was fearless on month. One day I realized that I would have to make additional changes to my job just to be able to drive this car. This was a greedy financial settlement. Now I drive a Subaru and laugh when I think about that muscle car that didn't leave me out of my mind. You eco-minded Joe. My story is a little different. I bought a new Range Rover because I fell in love with the idea of being eco-friendly, and even if I wanted to immediately introduce a hybrid version. Do you know what? Well, having added Yogo, I realized that the repair of the hybrid system requires qualified specialists and spare parts to be imported from Europe. Original service stations simply could not run into it. Once I paid for the diagnostics. The car, I could go to the repair with just a few pennies. Now I marvel at my Range Rover and think that it would be more environmentally friendly to ride an old bicycle. You freelancer Phil, my knowledge of the Ford Raptor, a majestic pickup truck, which I marveled at as a symbol of freedom. I was dying that I would drive it into nature and increase in price. Having bought it, and in the first month everything looked like a Cossack. It quickly became clear that it's even more important to find a place to park. And a daily exit costs less than a regular passenger car with such a lot of tires, literally poor tires, replacing them almost immediately. Irie months, and it cost more than 2 months to rent an apartment. Before that, there's insurance. Now I really want to live closer to nature so that I can make it right. You classic cruiser Carl. I've been dreaming about a real classic car. I'm looking for a 1969 Chevy Camaro. And after the troubles of work and savings, I decided to buy this beauty at an auction. What happened next? I'm starting to get tired of the first months. Everything that is possible is okay. Carburetor, radiator, door locks, original parts. Plus, not a single auto mechanic in my area is competent in repairing classic cars, so I'm looking for someone specialized and paying for the same price. I spent more on repairs than on the purchase itself, and I realized that I don't have enough pennies to encourage this fast horse. Selling the Camaro with tears in my eyes. You luxury lawyer. 82. I am a lawyer, and I want a car that would reinforce my status. I believe that the Mercedes-Benz S-Class is exactly what I need. Come first, insurance, then maintenance, and then problems with electronics. This car is full of technology, and a skin malfunction meant dozens of years of diagnostics, as it was a simple breakdown. What is my status now? Because I spend most of my time on cars, having turned it back, and now I'm going to the first place in the world. I don't want it to rip me off. You, Racing Reggie. Having bought a Subaru WRX, I have always loved rallies. I realized how I drive on gravel roads and feel the light at the current stage of the championship. The reality was different. First, gasoline. This is a beast car, Yogo fades like a relish, and I'm no longer talking about the versatility of sports tires. Then, having started to wear out the suspension through my races on cross-country terrain, after breaking the gearbox, I realized that this car is too expensive. Satisfaction for the amateur. Turning to a civilian car and leaving the Raleigh for simulators. You on Sunshine Sarah. I worked in a company where half of my colleagues drove a Range Rover, and I wanted one myself. I knew that it looked very new. I rode happily for the first few months until it was time to go through an MOT. It turned out that I would need some parts to replace it, and the prices for them were just crazy. Then I went to the dealership to replace the shock absorbers. It's a Range Rover, but if it came to new problems with the engine, I just got angry. From this luxury, I turned to my old Corolla, and I don't marvel at the Range Rover anymore. You mountain climber Mike. As a mountain tourist, I've always been dying about the Jeep Wrangler. I want to see the wine in my mind on any road. But the prices for spare parts, transmission repairs, spending on the bedroom, I can't help believe that cars are dead. It would cost me quite a lot. For the first few months, I felt like I was the rightful king of the road. But when the winter season started and I needed new tires, I realized that I didn't have. It covers the budget for the basic maintenance of your car. It ended up that I sold it and added a huge crossover. You Italian lover, Leo. I bought Italian classic cars and bought an old Alfa Romeo Spider. The car looked hopeless, but it turned out that repairs and support would be worth investing in the hobby. Most of the time it was parked garages, looking for spare parts or worm diagnostics. One repair of the electronics costs several $1,000s, and replacing the engine is even twice as expensive. Ready to invest wealth for a new purpose. Now I drive a reliable family car, and I lost the Spider from the past. Utah City Slicker. Dan, I live near a great place, but I thought that I wanted a car for trips to nature, like a Land Cruiser. I thought that I would often go up in price, but through work I couldn't get more than a few times to the river. Tim showed up in an hour. That the support of this car at the site is a real disaster. The car drains gasoline so quickly that I have to wait to refuel it, and the parking lot is charged as a fine for oversized transport. Duvati Pozashliakovic for going once to the river, but you will spend a lot of money on the water for such a car in the area.